Right. We're going to go through really quick and we're going to try to create a flat for this guy. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to rename it. This is going to be called my flat. I just had the T. Try that one more time. Flat. And I'm going to put the flat layer below the drawing layer, so I can toggle that on and off. So the flat has nothing on it. I do have a little bit of a tone for the background. Let's just test out this brush really quick. That looks like it's going to work just fine. So we kind of went through and talked about two different ways to go through and do this. And I'm going to just kind of go back over that one more time. I'm going to try to just shade in this half on this side. And usually what you want to do is go ahead and shade outside the lines. Let it go past the edge. We'll get to this paw right here. So that half is shaded. What I can do here is I can take my eraser. Let's see what kind of brush. We have a hard airbrush, so it's got a nice crisp edge. Let's see how big it is. It's not too big. Maybe I want it a little bit smaller. And I can zoom in a little bit. And right now what I'm going to do is try to clean up these edges so that the edge of my paint is equal with the edge of the drawing. And that's how you create a flat, is you have a flat color that shows the surface of your picture. So I'm just erasing away and revealing the background. If I have very, very small areas where I need to get into the little nooks and crannies, I'm going to have to make the brush a little bit smaller. So I'll do that when I get to that part. I can rotate this so it's a comfortable angle for my hand. I don't want to end up with a strange angle. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller still. Now I can fit inside this little space between the tail and the butt of the pug dragon here. And I can always go back and paint more into this again if I need to. If there's a spot that I missed, this guy's got a really small little spot. So I'm going to get in there. There we go. So if I mess this up and I want to fix an area, then I just grab my brush and I paint again. Then I come back and I erase again. Make it a little bigger. The beauty of a bigger eraser is that you can erase more at one time, so you don't have to spend as much time going through and erasing. The beauty of a small eraser is you can get into those detailed areas. So I'm kind of going through, doing a quick erase here. Get over here. You know, these paws have lots of little nooks and crannies, so I am going to take my brush back down, maybe zoom in even a little bit more so I can get those edges, clean them up. This doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously, if you're working on something for a client, you're going to spend more time and you're going to really try to make it as good as you possibly can so you can get rehired and people can tell other people about the good work you do. But this is an exercise. We're learning things. We're doing this. So I'm not going to spend countless hours trying to get it perfect. You're going to find a lot of artists who do this. This is how they approach doing their work. I'm going to go back to my brush really quick. I'm going to make it smaller. I'm just going to get a couple spots where I think I kind of fell off of the spot that I was trying to do. And we'll get our eraser. Just clean those little bits up right along the edge of that back there. Okay, so that's one approach. That's one way to go through and try to paint in your flat for this creature. The other way is to make a selection. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to tap on the selection tool, and I do like the freehand. And what that's going to allow me to do is I can, right now if I go, it's the add mode down in the bottom. And as I go through and I add, let's say this wing, there is a selection. So the diagonal lines show me where I am not selecting. Where it's left alone, that is my selection. So in Photoshop or Metabang or Art Studio Pro, you're going to see like little dancing ants around the edge. This has a different way to do it. Now that I'm in add mode, if I draw another shape, it is going to add that to my selection. So let's add, the big part of the face really quick. And we can kind of zoom in again. So now most of the face is selected. Okay, so let's zoom in. We can add this other wing. There we go. I'm going to add this little part out here. I missed it. Going to add the part of the back and the top of the head. There we go. Zoom in here. Let's add the shape of the ear. Come around, tap that. So the circle shows where you start, and the other points are what are included. So this kind of like fiery tongue. Let's go out and grab that. And then add it in. The beauty of trying to do little sections like this and adding little sections and little sections until you get it correct is if you make a mistake, you can subtract it. Or you can undo it. And that often ends up being the problem is that you get close to what you want, but you might not get it just right and you want to undo. Well, if you spent all your time and tried to stay on the outline for the whole thing the whole time and you hit undo, you just undid all of your work. But if you do little section by little section, it all comes together. So I think I have everything that I want to continue to paint in blocked in. So I am going to hit brush, and I'm going to take this same brush. We can make it really big now, and let's just check it out and see what gets painted in. Pretty much everything. So if I go over it a few times, I can really solidly get that blocked in. So I can see my little spots up here on the back, down here in the jowls there. Those did not get selected. So let's even do this, because you don't have to have the selection touching itself. So let's get a new selection. Let's select this area over here. Got it. Let's select that little section of the back. Got it. So now we just have those two. If I go back to brush, I can paint up at the back. I can paint down here, and bada bing, bada boom, we have the whole thing painted in. So right now we are working on, let's even just put this here, example C. So we want to do this in black and white. Now you can go through and I'm going to let you try to pick and add things to this whole area and really like spend more time on it if you want. But we have to add different layers of blend modes to this. So first we have to add color. Well, rather than just doing this, I'm going to start to add some value to this guy. So I have my flat, okay, and I am going to first just erase this guy over here. I don't want this example C on there. Okay, so I'm going to create a new layer, hit the plus sign. I am going to make this a clipping mask. So now it's connected to that. And let's just take this color and let's add a darker version to that, okay? And then I'll get my brush, maybe make my brush really big. You know, I have a lot of shadows at the bottom and maybe kind of towards the back. So if I start with a big stroke outside of my pug, and notice that the clipping mask is keeping all this shading on top of the pug. Maybe this top wing over here, the edge of that. So the top and the back, I just added some shadow. Maybe I'll take that layer, we could even turn it to a multiply layer. Oh, switched back to a regular. There we go. You know, so there's even a little bit darker. If that's too dark, I can always take my opacity and bring it down a little bit. It's about where it was before, but there we go. Let's do another layer, create another clipping mask. We'll make this a screen mode. Okay, take this color and we'll make it a little bit lighter. You know, let's figure out maybe if the shadows are on the back side, let's get some brighter lights on the front side near the face. Something like that. Maybe a little more on the very front edge. So that's a little strong, and this brush has quite a bit of texture. You can see all the weird kind of texture he's got built into that. I'm going to take this and also bring that opacity down. And what we can do with this is if there's areas that I want to start to pull that away from, I can do that. If I go to my eraser and let's say I want to erase out the texture and that light on the ear, I can do that. Make the ears dark, like a pug's ears are dark. The eyes around a pug are very dark. A pug's nose in the front of his kind of snout is also pretty dark. So if I erase that away, now it's starting to get somewhere. It's starting to look a little bit more like what I would expect. Anytime, let's say I wanted to take this and I wanted the bright areas to have more effect. It's not working enough for me. What if I slide to the right and I duplicate the layer? Notice how bright that got. Quite a bit brighter. I can always take this and take the opacity down a little bit so it's not quite that much, but it's pretty close. Nice kind of bright towards the front. I could also take a soft airbrush. Let's get a bigger one. Okay. And I can start to erase on this. And I can start, I'm going to combine these fours together. So that's my light area. So those are together. And I can start to erase way out here. And notice I can just really start to pull it out just a little bit. Maybe we'll keep the core of the light right up near the eyes and near the brows of the face. Fade it out in some other areas. I can do the same thing to my shadow layer. maybe the top part of the butt, I don't want it to quite be so much, have quite so much texture on it. Maybe this front wing, I want it to kind of be left alone for the most part. Maybe I want to do the same thing for this front paw that's in the front, and maybe a little bit of the leg here that's kind of showing, so that it doesn't completely fade into the dark like the legs on the back would. Maybe a little bit of the tail up there. So now I'm starting to like this a little bit more, and I have just a really great kind of black and white. I can find some different values. I could flatten all of this if I wanted to. You know, now that I have those different clipping mask layers, what if I pinch all those together, and now this whole thing is just one color, one value. Let's do one more. I'm just going to do a clipping mask back to the flat. I'm going to take the color of the main gray, then maybe I'm just going to make it a little bit more saturated and a little bit darker. Let's make this a smaller brush, and I'm going to just start to do just a little bit of more fine shading, finding some areas where I can add just a little bit of this and turn some of those forms. I can always erase any part of this away if I don't think I like how it looks. Get a little bit down here in the gels. Maybe go around those eyes again a little bit. Maybe get the bottom part of the ears a little darker. The bottom part of this wing and the shadow on top of the body. Didn't like those. I just made the back wing a little lighter. I didn't like that. Let's go maybe a little bit richer and a little bit darker again. Get some of those back paws. Push those back a little bit. The inside edge of the tail. That's better for that wing there. Get a little bit more on the ears next to the eyes. Get that nose down just a little bit more. Yeah, it was maybe a little too much. Just a little bit more. That's better. Maybe I'll try to get a little bit in the mouth there. Make that dark. The little last bit that rounds under his belly. The leg back near the butt. Parts of the front legs. Okay, so now I'm pretty happy with this whole thing. Now it's time to add my color layer. I'm going to collapse this guy down one more time so I have my flat. That's all one layer now. So I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to go to clipping mask. So it's connected to that. It's only going to paint on there. Or actually, let's not clip it. Let's just do color first. So I'm going to scroll down and I want to get to color. Okay, so I have a color layer. Let's do rename. I'm going to type color. Okay, so what color is going to do is it's going to keep the values, but it's going to add it to this black and white. So let's just see in a very rough way, how does that work? Well, let's say we wanted to make him all bright red. Okay, so we'll go to that layer, we get a brush. Let's even switch to a different brush just for fun. We're going to make it nice and big. So that just turned him completely bright red. If I want to keep that paint that I did only onto that flat, I need to make it a clipping mask. See how this is now put all that paint just on here. Kind of cool. It's a quick way to kind of add some of that. do something different. Let's say he's a fire-breathing doggy. So let's make this a little smaller. Let's start with some color right up in here near the face. Maybe we like the eyes to be a very kind of like pale yellowish. You can put some of that right there next to his face. Maybe the color that we think he is, for the most part, is more of a, you know, mid brown tannish color. So then we can take that and we can start to paint or give his body that color. Maybe the wings are something different. Maybe the other areas are something different. But if you can see this, notice how it's kind of just tinting everything towards that. And obviously we want this to be a clipping mask, so that it just paints on his body and not anywhere else. And we can start to kind of sample the colors, play around with how we want that to look. But this is how you would go through and create something that, you know, it starts from black and white, very easy to get all your values correct. And now we can go through and try to add some color. So I'm going to come back and do another video where I'm going to add 2 more blending modes.